Good evening and welcome to tonight's edition of the Ought to Know Better podcast. I am Gilly and I am joined tonight by Karl. How are we doing, Karl?
I'm all right, Gilly, thanks. You doing well?
Yeah, not so bad, not so bad. I've been up and I've had a quick pint with Bren of the my little Sparrowfart fame. So nice to see him. It's been a while. So
Nice.
yeah, cool. Right, we'll get an intro going. We'll get into it.
Hi, this is Don Matteo, and you are listening to the Ought to Know Better podcast. Let's do this.
Leeds are shit.
We're recording, you know.
Oh, shit.
We had a good start. I don't think we've got the personnel.
You can fucking laugh all you want, you absolute bellend.
I think about things, that's why you lot are idiots.
A melted version of a dick that's been shrink wrapped.
The absolute elite shithousery of this.
Elite shithousery of this. So there's a few along on the evening. Scooby's not feeling too great, feeling a bit under the weather, but beauty from Mighty Mouse. Hope you feel better soon, Scooby. Bryn's in the house, evening. Mark Wright, evening, lads. Sid Nige, evening, guys. G. Kush Gillette, evening, lads. Karl lives the storm, didn't get you. Karl lives. The storm didn't get you.
Yeah.
You've been back home, haven't you?
Stormed Barry, yeah. I was back in Ireland there on Sunday, flying visit.
I'm not sure I'd be too keen on flying out in that weather. Not from Leeds.
Honestly, like the most turbulence I got was sitting on the runway in Leeds, Bradford, waiting to take off. Everything else was sound. It's like, to be fair, going to Dublin, it's like you're catapulted into another country anyway. You barely get to your altitude and you're going down again. Right, I'll tell you how short it is, right? I was in the halfway point of the plane, and the trolleys on either end were 4 seats away from me getting a cup of tea at 6 a.m, and they were like, right, we're preparing to land, and they just went, no, we're not doing any more. And I was like,
you didn't even get a cuppa?
I didn't even get a cuppa, and the dude about 5 rows down got 2 of the small bottles of Jameson. I was like, that dude is falling asleep at 12 o'clock.
So the last time I made that flight, I had my first pint of Guinness at 4:30 in the morning. And my last pint of Guinness at midnight, I think it was, before I went onto the hard stuff. I think we counted 21. So it was a grand old day.
It's a grand old day, is right. Yeah, you'd be lucky to make the flight back if you were doing a whole day sesh, like.
No, we did stay over. So
right.
Fortunately, we had a couple of nights, but I was absolutely battered. So. Just a couple more. Steve Brown, evening, Gilly and Karl. Is that Danny or is that Kev or James hiding behind the Nalp? Good day, chaps. Scooby says Luke doing the thinker's chin scratch whilst thinking. I mean, you can tell he's thinking because you can smell the burning rubber, whatever it is. Selenium saying Karl scrubs up well, and Roland Buttonup's pointing out Karl got a haircut.
Cheers, lads.
And Steve Brown, Karl looking sharp with that trim. I mean, this is pretty bad, actually, isn't it? Because what they're really saying is you normally look like shit.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I tend to look like I've been dragged through a bush when I don't get a haircut for a little while. Like, so yeah, it's understandable. Like, I'd probably think the same myself if I was someone else, you know.
Fairs. Right. Okay. So start with the starting lineup then. So we played Boro. I mean, it was 3-1. I think we were fair value for it. The starting lineup. So we saw Byram come in, and we saw Verber on the other side. Fairly expected. We saw Joseph coming up front. We saw Aronson retain his shirt. What did you make it starting lineup?
I thought the back four kind of spoke for itself when Fark said that Schmidt isn't up for 90 minutes again in his press conference. So I think the back line was fairly. It was always going to be fairly self-explanatory, especially with Firpo being out and Verber being kind of the most natural left back that we have at the moment.
Yeah.
Byram is always going to come in for either a left or a right back. We know that's going to happen. And I just want to say on Byram, he was absolutely class last night. Class, but we'll get on to that in a bit anyway.
Yeah.
In the midfield, usual too there. The headache is going to come soon enough with Ampadu coming coming back into training. So I hope he's got strong painkillers to try and work that one out. And then Joseph been starting against over Piro. Well, he's going to rotate them until one of them starts firing on all cylinders, and I think that's probably what he's kind of doing with them. He's given them each equal opportunity to try and stake their claim, which I think isn't bad managerial practice at all, to be fair. But I just wish one of them would start fucking taking their chance fairly soon, like, you know. So, but I thought Willy on the wing as well. Yeah, I thought he there was no surprise there. I think we seem to tick when Willy's in the team a little bit more than maybe, other individuals perhaps. But I think overall it was a starting lineup that I think we all thought should at least get a good result against Middlesbrough last night.
Yeah, and just a mention of the midfielders. You touched on the fact that Ampadu's working his way back. Obviously, we saw him for a little bit. But Rothwell and Tanaka both played very well again, I thought.
Mm-hmm. There's no doubt in their quality and the little runs that Rothwell likes to make when he picks the ball up and he can see a bit of space in between the lines, and he did it quite a bit in the second half, which was quite nice to see. Not as much in the first half. There was bits and bobs, but I thought in the second half he definitely tried to go for it again a little bit more, especially when it got to 1-1. Tanaka is just, like we talked about Georgie being a cheat code last year in an attacking sense. I've never seen someone square a ball like that where they have the opportunity to just lift it over the keeper. He's past Tanaka for me, like, you know what I mean? So I think that centre midfield pairing is going to be difficult to dislodge, and we'll get on to how we could probably see it happening further down in the pod. But yeah, I think overall the midfield is doing more than a capable job, and it'll be difficult for Fark to kind of take them out of the fire and when the going gets good,
Yeah, I agree. I'm just trying to while you're talking there, just trying to send myself something so that I shared on the socials. I put on Blue Sky because obviously I'm a massive raging lefty these days. But no, there was a conversation around the midfield, and I was stunned. So you get those spider diagrams that show the attacking and the defensive, passes in good positions, the amount of defensive actions a player gets through, that sort of thing, and you see the 5 or 6 main kind of areas of strength. I'm just going to pop this up because I don't remember seeing one, but it's been certainly a long time since I've seen any sort of balance like this in one player, which if I pad long enough you'll be able to see.
Yeah, I think you might be able to get it up there.
Hang on a minute, it's not showing.
It's
because I'm trying to upload videos and it's not a video. That's why I'm in wrong bit. We'll get some training at some point soon.
Yeah, if I knew which player you're going to bring up, I could probably have.
It's Tanaka, and if you look at the attributes, I mean, you've got a 54 and you've got a 57, and everything else is in between. So it's creativity, technique, defensive, tackling, and attacking, and they're all 54 to 50. I mean, the balance, it's almost a perfect shape in the middle, and the balance that is showing in the games he's played so far. I mean, that's unreal, and I think that's borne out in the way that he plays, because I don't know how you feel. He seems comfortable wherever he is in the pitch, receiving the ball, playing the ball. He just seems comfortable, and he's one of those players. And a lot of people have said it. This is not groundbreaking that we're doing, but a lot of people have said how much time he has on the ball, and I think that's the mark of a quality player at the level they're playing at, isn't it? If they just appear to have enough time on the ball. But in terms of the balance, is that a bit of a surprise because he's playing deeper? I think traditionally he's seen as an 8. He's playing deeper for us. Is it a bit of a surprise that we've seen that much balance from him?
Well, to say that we didn't know an awful lot about him before he came, This could have been a typical side to his game prior to anything before, we've seen him. Like, he could well have played as a kind of a deeper lying midfielder in Japan before he went to Dusseldorf, But at Dusseldorf, he was definitely playing in an 8 role, chipped in with a few goals I've mentioned before and a couple of assists. So I think anywhere down the middle, he's a very, very capable player. I think with the likes of Tanaka, I think he's more pigeonholed far down the middle than he is, anywhere like out on the wing or something like that. You could probably play him in the 10. And with the way you were saying there, he works himself the space to have the time on the ball. That could be an absolute weapon to use. Potentially having Rothwell in behind him with Ampadu holding, But these are all scenarios where you have to take out Aronson as well, And let's be honest, we'll come on to him in a minute. But I thought he played well last night. I thought he had some good opportunities, and he was good on the half turn for a lot of the stuff he was doing. He made an absolute gobshite out of that big bald centre back a few times. And like to say that he didn't do this or he didn't do that. He got a goal. How many times have we seen players where we
Come on.
But hold on, like we've seen it, right? Where we've had strikers who don't do a tap all game and then pop up with a goal, and we're over the moon with it. Might have played absolute dog shite, but he gets a tap in, and then we're over the moon with it. But because we expect
that's a
much
striker's
more,
job, though, is just to get goals.
Yeah, but like the thing is as well, Aronson's job is to create and score. If he's in the 10, he's scoring. The creating will come. Well, he's got 5 now.
1 in 9.
He's got 5 now. So that's pretty good. Like, 5 goals when we were starting the season, not expecting him to fucking pull up trees, and he seems to be doing okay. Like, I wouldn't say he's pulling up trees; he's probably planting trees.
Yeah, no, I think we could probably leave that to one side. There's a lot of comments in the chat expecting me to go off on one. I think you must be on the wind up because he was fucking shite, but we don't really need to go into it. I mean, let's touch on the goal because you brought it up. He knows fuck all about that. It's hit him and it's bobbled in, and then he's gone fucking hell. It's gone in, and he's run off and celebrated. I think you can talk up the tackle. I think you can talk up the pick up and the pass. Well, actually, no, I'm on about Dan James's goal here.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the one that does come in at the end, the way that Tanaka takes that touch, brings the keeper towards him, and then lays it off. The fact that Aronson's got absolutely no idea what he's doing, where the ball's going, where he should be looking, and it hits him and goes in is irrelevant because all of the build-up play before that were brilliant. But that does not balance out the abject fucking shite that we saw from him for the entire game. It just doesn't.
I don't.
Sorry, Selena, it's less than 14 minutes, but we're on it now.
I don't think he was as bad as you're saying, to be fair. I think there was a lot of I thought that was probably one of his better games this season that we've seen.
No, I'm not arguing that.
And,
I'm just saying he was still shit. I'm not saying it wasn't one of his better games.
I think you're being quite harsh on him there. I'm not going to try and be the voice of reason and tell you you're wrong by any means, but I think the way he went about it last night, there was plenty of interchange and there was plenty of passes in that first half, right in front of the south stand, where they were very good. They were very intricate. He held on to the ball very well. Now I know in the second half he ended up closing down on the west stand side. I think it might have been the first half actually. And he created loads of space for himself, played a nice little 1-2, played it back to Roda, and then Strike ballsed it up and gave away a corner. But he was doing a lot of that hard work yesterday. And,
you're not allowed to say a word against Strike, by the way. You get crucified for that online.
Who says that?
The Strike sexuals. Let's not get into that.
Man, he fucked it up. He messed it up that time. But I think there was a lot of stuff that Aronson did yesterday that was quite good. Like there was a couple of turns there where he let the ball run by him and he completely made a gobshite of that big centre back more than one or two occasions. And
I mean, if you mean Matt Clark, I definitely think that you could do that.
Jeez, you're giving me too much credit there, man. You know,
absolutely not. I'm slating him. So just let's talk about it and get it done, so it's out of the way.
Right. Okay.
Just some of Aronson's stats. He was dribbled past once. He made 0 tackles. He blocked 0 shots. He made 1 clearance. He lost possession 19 times, most on the pitch for us. Didn't contest an aerial duel at all. Lost 7 of the 10 ground duels he attempted. Attempted 3 dribbles and successfully completed none. 1 shot off target, 1 shot on target, but that counts the one that he didn't know about. 0 of his long balls successfully completed. 0 of his crosses successfully completed. A quarter of his passes were incomplete. And his expected assists, having played at 10 for 90 minutes, were 0.03.
Okay.
This is not a good game. It might be one of his best games, but when you're comparing aids with Ebola, that's not a benefit. It's just awful. It's abject. It's awful. The experiment is over, and now that Ampadu's back, I'm really hoping he gets dropped and Tanaka gets pushed up. And whether it's because he's tired, even though he's covering the same amount of space and all of the various different aspects that we've had, he was fucking abject. He was awful, and I'm sick of watching him fail. That said, we can put that to one side and focus on the good bits.
Yeah.
So, Willy Gnonto, you mentioned. Now, there was an element of fortune about his goal as well. It is his goal, though, isn't it?
For me, it is, yeah. Because
it's his touch.
It comes off him, and the keeper has to try and make a save again. So yeah, it's Willy's goal. Yeah.
Good. Okay. So overall, I thought that Willy played really well. I thought he carried the ball well. He carried a threat. They were obviously worried about him, and I know that between him and Dan James, there's a lot of pace in that. So and your defenders are going to be a bit worried about him. But he faced up against the defence quite well, and there were defence that were going to be clogging. You know, they were big, dumb shithouses. There were no finesse about that defence. So you look at that before you go on pitch, and you know that you're going to get kicked shit out of. I thought he stood up to it quite well. In previous seasons, I think we'd have seen him moaning a lot more, sat on the floor, being a bit of a grouch. Seems to have put a lot of that behind him. I thought he played really well.
Yeah, no, I very much agree with you there, Gilly. I think we don't see the whining out of him anymore as much. And when you do see it, it's a legitimate, what the hell is that, ref, rather than every time he got touched maybe for the last couple of years or whatever. But I think maybe a lot of that has come down to the fact that he's looked at as one of the main men now. It's not him in the shadow of Somerville or Rutter. He's looked at as one of like the guys, the go-to guys. If something's not happening, he is the guy, like, you know. And I think he's taken that quite well, and he's adapted the mentality of a player like that. He's adapted the mentality of a more mature player. And in saying that, he went straight to Gilavogi last night when he scored. And
Willy Vogie.
Yeah,
that's the Willy Vogie. I saw. That's not mine. I've stolen it from online. But the Willy Vogie loving, I really like it.
I do as well. And since he's come in, maybe that is the more mature, older player in the dressing room having that effect on Willy. You know, I thought he was very good on the ball, off the ball. I thought him and Verber linked up quite well in spells on that left side as well. Verber we'll get on to in a bit. It was just mad how he played last night. But I thought Willy overall, he was unlucky to be taken off, and based off the statistics you've just given us there, maybe it should have been Aronson and Willy gone in the 10.
I was desperate for him to move into middle, or to bring Ramazani on and put him in the middle and just see what you can do with the creative force in there. For me, it's Ramazani. I like Gnonto on the wing. I know that he's played central before, and I've no issue with Gnonto moving inside, but I'd really like to see what Ramazani can do, because he's so clever on the ball and his feet are quick. He almost seems to be like a melding of Gnonto and Solomon, because Solomon's feet are really quick.
Yeah.
And, you know, with that little hip swerve and the drop of the shoulder, he's sending people for hot dogs left and right. but Ramazani seems to have that different level of thought or speed of thought or being able to see in advance what's going to happen. And I think that's key for a 10. So, I mean, like I said, I'd have no issue Gnonto moving inside. Actually, that's what I'm calling for. But I'd have no issue Ramazani at all. I was really disappointed that Aronson started. I was really disappointed he stayed on. But around him, you've got, we covered Tanaka and we covered Rothwell and the runs he's making. Just as we touch on that, so Jer and I had not a set-up, but a coming together online today, and he told me to give it a rest and have a day off. Is it an issue? Albeit Tanaka could have had a shot at the end, and he was unselfish, and he decided to score off a teammate instead. But is it a concern that we still see no goals out of midfield? We saw Ampadu and Gruev go large stretches last season, no goals out of there. Kamara was goal shy. We're still in a position where, they've scored 0 goals between Tanaka and Rothwell, and you look at them on the ball and you're thinking, you're capable. Even down to the fact that Rothwell's so good on set pieces, but Verber had the free kick.
Yeah.
Seems a bit strange. And, we know how good Rothwell's delivery is, so it's a shame that he didn't take it on and have a go, but is it a concern that we're not getting any goals out of midfield?
I don't think it is, because at the moment there's enough up front and on the wings to be providing the goals. I think the reason I say that is because Rothwell and Tanaka are way more forward-thinking players than the two boys were last season, Kamara and Ampadu or Gruev and Ampadu or, whatever it was. And they're getting players in positions, whereas previously our problem was our two centre mids weren't scoring goals and weren't creating. Now we've got two centre mids who are both creating. They're just lacking a goal. And I think that's why I'm not worried about, them not scoring. I think when Ampadu comes back in and we probably see Tanaka or Rothwell move into that kind of 10-8 role, I think it'll be a lot more fruitful for them once that happens. But at the moment, I'm not concerned, because they're creating more in the positions they're getting into. They're not having to get into the box to try and score the goals, because we know, Fark knows, that they've got the creativity to be able to provide the balls for the forward players to get the goals. And they seem to be more capable of doing that than, a very much defensive pair that we had last year.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And, I think Ampadu can do a lot. I think he's the closest that we've had to Calvin since Calvin went. He's got the shithousery about him. He's got the big tackle that he's happy to put in. He'll give shit to opponents, but he's very good on the ball. He's got a good touch and he's got a good pass. So, and he can do it with either foot. If you look at Gruev, if you look at Kamara, they were never going to be. So Kamara were perfectly fine carrying the ball. He were perfectly fine picking a pass. He wasn't overly negative in the way that some people might make out, but he was very, very, very goal shy, in as much as if it opened up in front of him, he would definitely try to find a pass instead of having a shot for whatever reason it was. So it was always going to be that it was going to be dry from there. You look at the other players that we had. You had Rutter that were an assist machine. You had Somerville that were a goal machine. There's talk about the goals being more shared out now. I'm not certain that I agree with that, on the principle that although different players are scoring, it's coming from the same positions. It's coming from the width. Pirot scored, but he scored from the bench. He's not scoring when he's starting. Joseph's not scoring. Aronson, he got one last night because it hit him and rolled in. But the one shot he had, you must have got a crick in your neck watching that sail over your head. Rodon's finally got one. Great. I loved it. It was right in front of me and it was brilliant. And I cheered louder than anybody, or as loud as anybody. Strikes always worth a few goals, or albeit some of them penalties, but they need putting away. So, it's not a negative, that. but in largely, it's coming from the wingers. He's the goal threat, and that's the only reason I mentioned that. Although they are, Rothwell carries the ball forward, Tanaka picks a pass. I'm not knocking that bit. It feels to me like they do need to chip in with some goals. You're looking for a centre midfield surely to get 5 to 8 each a season, with the amount that they're going to be playing as well. And let's be fair. Although I thought Boro being a very good run, I thought they were fairly poor last night. I didn't think they were all that. Whereas there's a lot of people saying, "Oh, best side we've seen at Elland Road this season." I didn't think they were all that, to be honest.
No.
They have been very good before that game, and that might be what people were getting at. I didn't really think that they did much against us except for that short period around their goal. And I'll pop up my favourite graph soon. But does it feel to? Am I totally wrong? Does it feel to you like the goals are being shared out more?
I think. Like when you think about it, it doesn't seem like we're scoring all that more, that many goals. Even though we've got like plus 21 now or something, and 14 against or something like that.
The goal difference is 22.
Yeah,
I think my only concern really is away from home. That's the issue, isn't it? Is the form away from home? The form at home is not an issue at all, and I think the goal difference at home is really not a concern. It's making sure that we're unpicking a defence away from home.
Yeah, the away form is kind of worrying at the moment, but the way we're playing at home is like the fullbacks are expected to do a winger's job on the overlap on the outside, and it's like we're playing with inverted wingers. So we're kind of when you look at it, we've kind of we've learned how to try and break down teams. If they're overloading us at the back, then we need to overload them at the back as well by utilizing the fact that everyone's terrified of Dan James, right? Well, this is the truth, like,
and they are.
This is the thing. So if they're loading and giving us a low block, then why not put Dan James in the mix there and try and scare the shit out of them, and having the likes of Verber going on the outside, or Firpo previously, and Bogle and Byram. Now Byram doesn't get around the outside very much. Maybe that's why it was Dan James was kind of playing a little further forward whenever the opportunity, came about to kind of, right, I can sit a little forward here without having to wait for the ball to turn over and whatever, But I think with the inverted kind of wingers, it's to be expected if we're going to do that the wingers are going to get a lot of goals if they're playing more centrally when we're in an attacking motion, because we've got the fullbacks out wide anyway. Now a lot of teams we've seen come to Elland Road will try and play with inverted fullbacks rather than wingers, so that's probably why they're not getting as many goals from the wings as we say would be, which we're not necessarily getting them from the wings because they're coming down the centre of the pitch once it comes back in from the fullbacks. So it probably seems like it's not getting shared out enough, like you said, but at the same time it is, because it's coming from the middle of the pitch, so it's not essentially our wingers, it's kind of they're inverted fucking number 10s and strikers when it comes into the centre of the pitch, like. So I think it is getting shared about. I think Tanaka and Rothwell need to maybe get 1 or 2 in the next, there's a busy period coming up over Christmas, so they'll probably have an opportunity there. But I think it's down to our lack of shooting as well, like, we're very much get it in the box and try and cut it back team. Whereas Rothwell and Tanaka get it on the edge of the box and they're just like, right, I need to get it out to the fullbacks so that we can triangle in around there, and then
that seems to become predictable, though, doesn't it? And it's not like, I hesitate to say it's not like Bielsa ball where it was so irresistible. Even if a championship side saw it coming, they couldn't do anything about it. It does seem a little bit predictable, and the crowd groans. The atmosphere was decent last night, and I'll give some props to the Boro fans. They were pretty noisy for large stretches, at least.
10 minutes.
But I thought that overall the atmosphere were a little bit better. Let's touch on that. I were in the Cop. Atmosphere a bit better than it was. I was sat in a slightly different area or more towards North East Lower. It was louder there than it was behind the goal, where it was absolutely dead at the weekend.
Yeah.
You're in the South. Typically, the singing section, as other clubs would have. But, yeah, what was it like down your end?
It was actually quite loud, to be fair. There was obviously when we went 1-1 it was a bit quiet for a minute, and then you got the whole football in a library thing from the Boro fans. But like Smarty was saying on the pod on Sunday morning, or was it Saturday, Sunday, I think, I don't know, that there's a constant kind of around me as well. There's a constant 10, 12 lads that'll always kind of sing and try and get it going, and it was decent on Tuesday night. I thought it was probably the best one of the season so far, and it was probably down to the fact that it was Middlesbrough as well, and they look at it as their cup final local derby when we don't even know they exist up there in Schmoggyland. So I think as fans, we need to kind of up our game when it comes to singing side of things and getting behind the lads. Like, I think on was it Saturday when we played Derby County Stadium, I know the wind was bad and people wanted to get home, but Jesus Christ, the stadium was nearly empty before 90 minutes, and that absolutely melts my head. But last night it was a lot better. There seemed to be a lot more people wait till the final whistle last night than there was on Saturday. And yeah, I get it, you go home early, you know, you beat the traffic, but if you're paying 40, 50 quid for a ticket, traffic can wait, like, you know what I mean?
I think so. I think so. It seems madness to me that
and they'd have missed a goal
pay the
as
money,
well.
they can make the choice, can't they?
Yeah, but they'd have missed a goal as well if they left on like 87, 88 minutes. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
What's the point then? Like, you know, one of my mates, Tom, he was standing next to us at one game there recently, and he had to leg it early. Like, he never leaves early ever, and he was like, before he was leaving, he was like, guarantee you now I'll be halfway up Beeston Hill and I'll hear a big roar, and lo and behold, it happened. So I was straight on the blower to him. I was like, nah. So I was like, oh yeah, here we
and
go.
Obviously that fucked us up a little bit, because you and I both went 2-1 in the predictions league, which would have been a nice 5 points, and we ended up with 1 each.
That was it, man. That was it. It was just a pain in the arse.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
Bryn's put one in here. Just he said, Karl, atmosphere died when Bielsa left. Fans have been proper up for it 8 times since. Look, we need to get out of this headspace about, you know, Bielsa, and that's the only reason that the crowd was good, because the football was electric, blah blah blah. I love Bielsa, and what he did to our club was just phenomenal. But can we just put that shy to bed and maybe do it for this team as well? Like, you know,
we are still experiencing a hangover. We definitely are.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I think a lot of it again is down to nerves, because last season we didn't know what was going to happen because it was so late into the season when we got a settled squad. So I think everyone was nervous because we had Jesse Marsh and then we had chaos. Well, no, we had Bielsa.
Why are they scared? Well, you sort that out, dickhead.
Yeah. So when you've got managers like that, and it was just, you know, 3-4 managers in the space of a season, it's just fucking ridiculous. So everyone going into the last season was just nervous as hell because we didn't know what was going to happen. And now I think it's
here's a question for you.
Now.
Just as I remember it, here's a question for you. Yeah. How did you feel when Tanaka took 2 free touches, the ball still wasn't coming down properly, so he knocked it back to Meslier? Could you see it from your end?
Yeah. Wow. To be fair to Meslier, he did quite well with that, like, because their keeper absolutely butchered a few of them, and like, for all the grief Meslier gets, he actually did all right there, to be fair.
Absolutely. You know, I think he did, yeah.
Yeah, and it's the only thing that Tanaka could do, and it was the only thing that, you know, Meslier could do, so I was like, all right, don't
oh God, what have you done?
Yeah, don't do it again, please. I'm okay. You know?
Do you remember Rodrigo playing that sweeping pass from one wing to the other inside our own half, and how that went? And it was just like, oh no, what have you done?
Yeah, I was just, oh my God. But look, we got away with it. So
we did, and
right.
You're right. You know, he dealt with that pretty well, because it was a difficult ball back to him, and to chest it. I mean, it was pretty much his neck. It bounced that high. He jumped up. He's not small, is he? He's like 6'4", 6'5". He's Mellier.
Yeah.
He jumped up and it still would like right up here, touched it down, and then just put it out for a throw. And do you know what? That's the outcome that I was hoping for. I wasn't hoping anymore. Just get it out, get rid.
Yeah, don't take another touch.
Yeah, he did well with that. And he did well with a shot at the front post, which, let's be fair, he's had a lot of knockers for letting goals in at his front post. It's a savable shot, but it needed saving, and he saved it, and he did pretty well with that. I don't even think that we can knock him for the goal. All right, Verber's a bit unlucky. He's got his head to it, and it's just spooned into the goal. I'm not going to have a go at Verber, but Mellier can't do anything about that either, can he? So, in terms of overall, I didn't think there were too much to say that he got too much wrong last night, Mellier.
I don't think so. No, I think he did quite well. Well, like I said earlier, the strike sexuals would probably kick my hole, but it was Stoich's fault that the pass back went away, and then they got a corner out of it, and it wasn't anything Mellier could do. So I think if they can share about the old fuck ups a little bit and not have it so concentrated on the back line, then I'll be happy enough with that. There's Jay has put a comment here in for us. He said their keeper looked surprised every time it went back to him. It did. It was like what we made Brookie turned around to me. It was like, did he win like a supporters fucking day out or something as a keeper? Like, because he really looked nervous every time it came back to him. Honestly, I just thought, I said to Brookie, I was like, we should be hammering this guy, like just absolutely putting everything in on top of him.
Yeah,
corners,
shoot on sight.
Yeah, just everything. He was goosing it all night long. It was mad.
No, that's fair. There were actually a couple of things that did frustrate me about Mellier. I'm not digging him out now, and I'm not changing my mind on his performance, but there were a couple of times when he's played the ball short and you're thinking, they're set up to deal with this. We should just be putting your boot through it. And to be fair, after maybe a couple too many, he went, no, everybody forward, and he knocked it long. And we learned from it. It took a little bit too long maybe to learn from it. So there were a couple of those where we put ourselves under pressure, and it ended up going out for a throw-in anyway in our own half. So it's almost like, well, what were the value in that? So, but yeah, that aside, I thought he did well enough. I don't think there's anything hugely major that he did wrong.
I don't think so. No, I thought it was a fairly sturdy performance.
So that's fair. So I'm just going to spin through a couple of comments. So Steve Brown says, what an old school tackle by Byram for second goal. Loved it. I don't know if you've been able to, obviously we were both at the game. I don't know if you've seen any of the highlights back, but it was a proper tackle. Have you seen it?
That was a burster of a tackle, man. Like, I did want to talk about this. That was unreal. And I thought he wasn't going to get up from it. But he did, thankfully. But yeah, they're the kind of tackles that, as a crowd at Ellen Road, that's what we want to see. We're used to Batty smashing someone. We're used to Decor. We're used to Molinar coming out of defence and absolutely leathering someone. That's the kind of tackle that gets us going. And the crowd just went bonkers as soon as he put his foot in there. And I was delighted for James with the second goal as well, because he absolutely fucking made a dog's dinner of the first effort where he just passed it in.
It was a decent save, to be fair. It's not like he didn't get it. He didn't Aronson it into Rose's head.
No, but like to see
it was hard and low, and it was a decent save. But don't you think you were quite clever to go hard and low for one and then just pop it right in top bins for the second one?
Yeah, I thought he would have done that with the first one as well. Like,
yeah,
the way
but equally, mental strength. He's just what a minute later. He's just gone through on goal and he's had an effort saved. To have the stones to step up and do that with it, I mean, that surely that takes something.
Oh no, that's definitely good mental strength there. Like, to be able to just go, I'm not doing that again. I'm just fucking putting my foot through this. So,
take some leather off it, top bin.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, turn it into one of them balls you used to play with when all the panels had come off and it makes that sound.
Sid says Perot did more in 20 minutes than Joseph did in 80. Very disappointed with Joseph performances. We spoke at the start of the season quite extensively about expectations on Joseph. Never started a league game before this season. Madness to think that he's going to start every game and he's going to get 35 goals in the season, whatever else. Is he doing enough at the moment?
Last night I thought was one of his poorest performances. But again, someone made a point. I think I saw it on Twitter. I think maybe or something. Where they did point out that he wasn't pressing in the same way that he would have normally pressed, and it seemed like it might have been more instruction rather than to sit back and not press their centre backs too much. I don't know. I thought against Derby as well when he came on. I thought his touches weren't great. I thought maybe it's a weird one with Joseph because he's the kind of player we've seen where he likes to try and hold the ball up and bring players into it, but it's at his own detriment as well because he's not quite up to that the way Bamford is. I think he's more along the lines of, right, there's the hole between two centre-backs, that's where I want the ball. And he's got the pace to beat players, and we've seen that he's got the pace to beat players. So maybe instructions kind of hampered him over the last couple of games with his appearances and stuff, but I thought that one, it was definitely for me one of his poorest games last night.
It very much seemed to me like we were set up just to let. So, I mean, Matt Clark is an awful footballer. I said online this morning that he should have the scrum cap from the keeper in Derby game. He should go and be a prop forward or a second rower or something because he's not a footballer. I'm not having any of that at all. He is not a footballer. He looked scared every time the ball came to him at his feet. Yeah, all right, he did all right in the air, but he's massive, so he should be doing all right in the air. He should be dominating in the air, but it very much felt like we'd gone, do you know what? Their centre-backs are shit. Let them have the ball. They're not going to hurt us. And then we were going to press kind of, what do the kids call a mid-block? That we weren't sitting deep and going into a low block, but we're doing a mid-block where we just weren't letting them penetrate into the midfield. And I think that went a long way. You know, Aziz was one of the danger players marked out before the game. He barely did a thing. I think the only thing I really remember him doing is spooning a free kick into south stand. I don't really remember much from him, and I think that's testament to the way that we set up. But I think that really hampered Joseph's game. He did play poorly last night. He didn't do any pressing, but I don't think he was being asked to. I think he did the job that he was being asked to do quite well, but that just wasn't showing him what he's capable, showing us what he's capable of. But you need that. You know, you need players to do the job that the manager's asking of them so that we can succeed as a team and as a club. So I'm absolutely not knocking him. It just seemed a bit of a strange way to set up, because if you're going to do that, well, Perot's a better finisher. We've seen that. Why would you not play Perot if what you're not doing is going to press from the front? It seemed a little bit of an oddity. I thought, and you and I have done plenty of B&Cs together already this season. I've said, why would you change the Perot setup given that he's getting loads of goals from the bench? Why would you change it? It's working. And you know, he came on and he got a decent assist, so it worked again. But if you're not going to press at all, even when you're at home, it seems a bit odd to leave your best finisher on the bench and play a player that's good at pressing.
Yeah,
Just seemed a bit strange.
Well, the way I kind of looked at that is that, like I mentioned, Joseph is the type of player who's looking to try and hold the ball up. He's just not capable of doing it to a certain standard where we need him. Whereas Pirro, he's not going to try and, like, whenever Pirro gets, you know, anywhere towards the ball, gets a head on it, it's going forward. He's not trying to take it down. Gets the, you know, one touch on the ground, he tries to play it away straight away and get in behind, but he hasn't got the pace that Joseph has to be able to get in behind, and either of them aren't like covering themselves in glory with how they're pressing. Like we looked like we set up very similar to how Blackburn set up against us, where they pressed us when we got to kind of the edge of the 18 or the centre circle in our half. That's when they started pressing us. We looked like we were doing that yesterday, but it wasn't using the players, the Joseph, to the best of his abilities. and that's why it
I would
looked like
agree.
he had a very poor game. You know.
Yeah, and on the face of it, you look at his stats and the number of touches he had and chances he had and that sort of thing. It looked like he was a passenger, because he didn't get much of the ball. He didn't see much of the ball, which is an oddity to say that. I mean, we scored all 4 goals, obviously, but we scored 3 against an opponent and we played at home, and your striker's barely in the game. It's a bit strange, but I think it's one of those. Where it didn't play into his strengths, and I think we just need to be cognizant of that as a fan base, not pillory players because the manager's asking him to do something different. Not that I'm saying Sid was, we've gone on a little bit of a tangential position. I'm not saying that he was completely digging him out. It's just it'll be interesting to see what he does next time round. There's rumblings about why we're not starting Bamford if he's fit. And then you've got people like Bryn that self-combust when they hear stuff like that. As I pointed out to him today, actually him coming back into the side last season and Stroik coming out of it coincided with the best run the club's had in over 90 years. So he's still got something to offer. I'm not advocating for him to start, but he's still got something to offer. So it'll be an interesting one that if Perrault and Joseph continue misfiring from starting positions, whether they'll actually change that and that gives Bamford a go back in the team, and we'll have to see. Moving on though, Paul Brennan says Dan James last night all over the park. His goal for me, goal of the month contender. What a cracker! He also got a bit of a song.
Yeah,
it's about time, isn't it?
He's got a song.
Man of the match for me. What did you think to Dan James's performance?
I thought man of the match, without a doubt. There was one particular incident where they looked like they were going to have a serious opportunity to score inside our 18-yard box, and he'd come from the other side of the pitch, and he'd come down. It was right in front of you, and he just took the ball off your man. He literally came out of nowhere. I was watching Strike, I don't know if it was Strike or Rodon, shadow your man, and then Dan James just came out of nowhere. I was like, where the fuck did he come out of? Because it was like he'd just gone, and he'd just taken him out, and I was like, what the fuck has he done that like? And it got a great reaction from the crowd, and that alone showed the determination. You can see it. You can see the pride in his face now when he scored as well. He's getting into it. He had his little bit of come on now, chill out. Fuck it, come on, let's go mental.
Yeah, he did.
So you're looking at that, you're kind of like he's getting into the swing of things now. He's 100 games, got a goal on his 100 game. He's going to be vital for us this season. Vital.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. No, that's fair. And Matt Wright asks, when was the last time we had a centre midfield who scored 8 to 10 goals? I've had a little bit of think on this, and I can't think of anybody since Click.
Yeah, Clicky would be the one, wouldn't he?
And I think
Phillips
actually...
wasn't prolific by any means.
Well, even when we had Click, actually, when we started singing 20 yards or 30 yards, all his goals dried up. So even then, for one season, he struggled a little bit because we were singing about him scoring goals.
Yeah. Well, we haven't, I can't think back. I can't think of any other centre midfielders that we've had recently that have been able to do something like that.
No. I mean, Pablo, you can't consider a central midfielder. He was an attacker.
It was just fucking magic.
I'm struggling. We've not had many that have got a lot. With some notable exceptions, and further back ago than, could you class Boyer as? I mean, he was a midfielder, but
yeah, he was a centre mid.
He scored some great goals. Obviously, speed. McAllister, Strachan scored goals. Played central mid. Played left. Played right. But since 2003, we've not really had many that have been, maybe 2 or 3, but not many that have got anywhere near double figures.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's an unrealistic expectation of somebody that's playing week in, week out in central midfield. That's part of the job, I think, is to weigh in with some goals. I know we're asking them to play kind of a double pivot anchor position.
Yeah.
But I don't take away the fact Rothwell makes bursting runs. Tanaka gets up. They both get forward. They both drop back, and they manage that between them. And I think in a Farke side, one of them always has to be further back because of the way that he deploys his fullbacks. One of them's got to make that extra man in defence, and they both do that more than well enough. But the other one gets forward, gets to the edge of the box. I think that there needs to be some goals coming from there, and even if it is that Ampadu goes into there, I think there's still an expectation that there'll be some goals coming from midfield, whether it's corners, whether it's shots from the edge of the box. We've got to start taking advantage of that, especially when it's sides that are just dropping deep. We've got to have some shots on goal.
I tend to agree with you. Like, anytime I played growing up, you'd always expect your midfielders to chip in with goals, like your centre mids, whether it be free kicks from corners, going in off their backsides. But Ian Ward makes a good point here as well. That's why I kind of reminisce to my playing days. Maybe it's because football has changed. And,
yeah, but we can still be sentimental about it, can't we?
Oh, we can, of course, yes. That's why I reminisced just there,
Yeah.
So it's one of them. I agree with Ian. Football has changed, and maybe that's why we're seeing less goals from our midfield, or midfields in general. But look, it's
not a good way to retain possession, is it? Having pot shots from distance.
No.
And Farke wants to retain possession and wants to nullify the opposition and kind of smother them and dominate possession totally, which is not conducive to somebody having a pot shot from 30, 35 yards out. But it'd be nice for us to change it up and do it a little bit.
I think with that keeper last night, there should have been more pot shots, because he like, we talk about Meslier having, what is it, pomodum wrists or whatever it is. That keeper was made of bleeding styrofoam yesterday. You could have hammered him, like, and that's kind of the frustrating thing as well, because there was positions where Rothwell and Tanaka got in, and they could have had really good fucking efforts at goal and potentially put the keeper under a lot of pressure. But then it goes back to what you said. Farke he said, I would love 100% possession in a game.
Yeah.
He said it, like, so when people get frustrated that, Joseph picked the ball up around the edge of the 18-yard box, he made that in the first half and made that little weave and run in the edge of the box, and he had nowhere to go, and there was no one available bar going back to Rothwell, and then they'd put the pressure on, and then it went back to strike. But with football, no matter what changes throughout football, if you have the ball, the other team are doing all the running. And it's as simple as that. Like, and that's why I never get annoyed with, like, I know it winds Jay up that it goes back and it goes sideways and this and that. If they don't have the ball, they cannot fucking score. They're going to be chasing the ball all the time.
Well,
I mean?
Unless you're in a position where Strike fucks it up, presents it to the opposition, and the through on goal, and I take the general principle is sound that if you've got it, somebody else is not hurting you with it.
Yeah, and they're kind of isolated incidences as well. They don't happen all the time. So if you're controlling the ball and you're moving it around, you're very much moving another team around with it. But they're covering more ground, because you're always told as a footballer when you're growing up, until I've told it in a Vets game a couple of months ago, they can't get it, so they're going to get knackered. That's it. It's as simple as that.
Let the ball do the work. We were always coached,
weren't we?
do
the work. That's it.
That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's fair. So we spoke about Dan James then, and I think we agreed. We both thought man at match. I thought there were a couple of other shouts. I thought, we touched on Rafael Tanaka. I thought Rodon had a really good game. I was really worried when he was down, because it looked pretty bad at a certain point. And you're looking at Verber, who's our only senior backup centre back, is already on the pitch because we've got no backup fullbacks as senior players. And you're thinking, shit, what we're going to do? We have to bring Ampadu on at fullback because Byram's knackered because he's only just come back from injury himself. Yeah. Ampadu's only just back from injury, so we're having to put a central midfield at fullback again. It's a bit of a worry when Rodon goes down, but apparently, I don't know if you've seen this, Farke went, there's fucking no chance you're coming off.
Did
he? Yeah.
Fuck, man. Because one of the lads that I go with, he was like, He's hobbling around there, and you could see him. He was doing that hopping, kind of skipping a run type thing for about 10 minutes. One of the lad goes, if he leaves him on, he's going to knacker him for 4 to 6 weeks. And I was like, press conference Thursday, knackered for 4 to 6 weeks.
Hopefully that won't be the case.
Yeah.
No, he seemed to finish off. It took, like you say, about 10 minutes before he was played into trouble, actually, as I recall, and he had to sprint to get out of it. And you're thinking, oh, I hope he makes it a bit. Made it to the ball, cleared it, and then there were no ill effects afterwards. He wasn't limping after that. There was one tiny bit right towards the end when he was jogging back, and he almost looked like he was favouring one leg over other, but. Yeah. Fingers crossed he's come through that. It was just a worry at the time, and you're looking at the bench and you're thinking, well, we've got some youth. Let's see how they do.
The old adage: if they're old enough, if they're good enough, they're old enough. So.
We got there in the end.
Yeah. Eventually, yeah.
There is Johnny making a point here that ref didn't like our injured playing coming back on the pitch, did he? Yeah. There are certain rules around it, but. They've extended the period of time of players off the pitch if they get treatment, aren't they? Yeah. Well, somebody behind me was saying a minute, and I remembered it going to 30 seconds. But a crowd does get frustrated when the players there going, "Let me on," and refs going, "Nope, not yet." It's like,
yeah, but I won't get too much on the ref's case now because he was fucking useless, and we all saw that. But he wasn't fond of his yellow cards.
Was not.
At all,
but then they came out in a flurry. It was like almost, oh shit, I have got these. Right, you're having one.
Wöber had one foul and he got booked. One foul.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, just a word on Wöber. He has a long way to go before there's any redemption arc there. But I'm not quite sure what they've done with the old Wöber, but his overlapping runs outside of Willy. Like, can you just try and straighten it out for me, because he was quite good.
I can't make any sense of it because that doesn't look like the Wöber that we knew. Can you remember the Wöber that played against Boro last time this season?
Well, I get that. It's like, what the fuck?
That was a different player. Yeah, we did not see the same player last night that we saw earlier in the season in the cup, because that Wöber was abject, and last night I thought he played really well.
That Wöber looked like someone that Arthur has mentioned in the comments here. Weston McKennie just scored a beauty against Man City.
Oh, Winston McKennie, as he said.
Winston, yeah. Winston's McKennie. He's off for a bleeding McDonald's in Manchester on the way home anyway, the fat twat.
Weston McDonald.
Yeah, Weston McDonald. But yeah, I thought Wöber, it was chalk and cheese between the first time he played in Middlesbrough and last night. He's one of these defenders and players that we have in our team that, whether we like it or not, he's too good for this division. You know what I mean? He's one of those. He's an Austrian international who's getting called up, and he hasn't played a game for us all season, and he's absolutely balling for Austria. And you're kind of like, well, look, that's just the way it is. We got to suck lemons on that one, you know what I mean? I think just for a little bit. So
I mean, yes, but at the same time, I think it's one of those where people were pissed off for a reason.
Oh yeah.
And that redemption is something that is needed. It's not like people are being out of order. There was some upset, and I think some of that upset was fair. I'm just trying to get the scores up because Sheffield United are playing tonight, aren't they? So the current scores: Preston are beating Cardiff 2-0. Hull are drawing against Watford. Millwall are losing to Sheffield United after 94 minutes. QPR beating Oxford. That's expected. West Brom beating Coventry. Yeah, I mean, do we care? Do we really care? Concentrating ourselves, don't we? I think just we needed Rodon to get up and finish that game. That was the point. Fingers crossed we get everybody through, because with Bogle out, with Firpo out, Ampadu only just coming back, Gruev, we can't afford any more injuries. We've only just got our wingers back. We were playing with just with just two wingers, and those two wingers are entirely swapped because the other two had got injured. Schmidt, I think, came on towards the end as well, didn't he? It was nice to see him come on. So it'd be good to get some fitness.
He looks like he's a very capable footballer, you know. Might not be able for 90 minutes, but he looks like he's got a very good touch. He likes to get involved quite heavily in the build-up play, and I think he might have a lot to offer when the time comes, you know what I mean? Like, we didn't see Anthony Gruev really until after Christmas, so...
Well, that's it. You know, there's a lot of talk about would we have even seen Tanaka and Rothwell had Ampadu and Gruev not got injured, and no, I suspect not. He doesn't like to change things in that. Once he's got trust in players, it seems that gets rewarded. So even if a player's not starting, he clearly trusts Byram. Byram comes on in games if he's not starting. I think he's building that in Solomon. I think he already has that in Gnonto and James. So you'll see if they don't start games, they'll come on. It's one of those where I think we didn't need too much. In fact, I never actually popped up my favourite, and we nearly missed it. Here we go. Look at the momentum.
There you go.
What really interested me here actually is I thought either side of half-time they were stronger. Actually, they were strong for a stretch of the midpoint of the first half, and they were strong just after half-time. And then before we killed them off with the third goal, they had a bit of the ball. Does that ring true with your feeling and recollection of the game, that momentum graph, Karl?
I think so, yeah. They did have spells where they looked quite dangerous, and they did have spells where I thought if they get it together here, they could really hurt us. Like, they had, they'd won it. Like, you got to give them credit. Like, they're a good side. We made them look very average in for a lot of 90 minutes, but they're a good side. Like, and I think there was definitely opportunities where I thought before they got the first goal, I was a little bit like, Jesus, they could get one here now, and I was kind of thinking we need another one before half time, and then they literally, as I said that, they got their goal, and I was like, for fuck's sake, I should just learn to keep my mouth shut. But yeah, I think it's a true reflection of how they played. They did have good spells here and there, but that's all it was, just good spells here and there. It was.
Carrick was. I've not actually seen direct quotes, and I've not seen the interview, but apparently was moaning that they didn't get what they deserved from the game. I think it would have been a stretch, really, for them to have taken anything from that. I didn't think they did enough to spells, yes, but even when they had the ball for stretches, it didn't feel like they were in a position to really hurt us. So I wasn't really worried about that. And just a bit of a word to the other side. So Sunderland drew at home against Bristol, and Burnley drew at home against Derby. Certainly dropped points there, and I know that Sheffield United have won tonight, but or are winning, whether that's finished or not. But do we need to trouble ourselves with what everybody's doing right now?
No, I think we should just do whatever we're doing. Just keep doing it, and if the fans want to keep moaning about Fark not changing it up, then keep moaning. But as long as 3 points keep coming, then I'm happy enough with that. Like.
And do you know what? I think on that note, we'll bring it to a close. So thank you everybody for getting involved in the comments. Karl's been struggling with his mic, so although his audio is a little bit low now, it started off all right actually, but at least we didn't get any of the white noise this time. So we are working on it. We are getting there.
I was. Is it lower now than it was at the start?
Not now, but it was about a minute ago.
All right, well, I need to fucking sort that out. Look, no white noise is a start, yeah?
No white noise is a start, that'll do.
It's not a phone stapled or taped to the wall, so we're good. Progress.
Progress, that's it. 1%. It's 1% better each time.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody for getting involved in the comments. It does make it easier and it helps us flow, so it's good for you to be here with us, and we do appreciate you coming and spending your time listening to us later on. Karl, thank you very much for joining me tonight.
Thanks for having us, Gilly.
It's been a pleasure, as always. The lads will be here tomorrow. Are you on tomorrow night as well?
Oh, Christ, am I? This is...
I think it might be.
I'm a bit of a joke. This now I seem to be on all the time.
You
like,
do seem to be on every single pod at the moment.
I took the piss out of Smarty for being like this STD of a guy that was being, for the eyes and all that. But now it looks like it's going to be me, is it?
Anyway, the lads will be back tomorrow night for the main pod, so that'll be. I know that Luke's on. I think Smarty's on. So some of the other lads will be around. So there'll be some predictions. There'll be some looking ahead at the upcoming games. Preston at the weekend, and then he's at Oxford afterwards. So we'll be looking forward to that as well. Get involved in the comments and do all of that stuff, and there'll be a bit of Andy's Man Club updates and a few other bits and pieces and some shit takes. I've got a feeling that my name will be cropping up in, so watch this space. And just thanks again for your time, everybody, and we'll see you again soon. Cheerio.
Bye.